Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction. I don't like hearing my own bio. Um, yeah, we'll give glory to whom it's due. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you all for being here. We have so much to do today. And we're gonna go right into it. Like the first Pastor Gbenga said, get out your pen, get out your paper, make a commitment to yourself. Please make a commitment to yourself that you get this information, but also you're going to operationalize it because at the end of the day, taking action, it's really critical. Um, I'm going to share my screen. Like I said, we have a lot to go through, and then we'll go through that. I have 30 minutes, so my time starts now. Walk through things, but don't worry, we're going to have Q&A session, and myself and Pastor Guga, we've talked about the fact that we want to go underneath, and I'm talking to you from multiple perspectives. So we'll get things started here. Uh, Can you all see my screen here? Can you see that? Just want to be sure that I'm not that you can all see. Can you all see me and hear me? I, I need a sound. Can anybody see me and hear me? Just to be sure that.
Yes, you're good.
Okay, great. Let's get into this. So what I've kind of titled this presentation, this very short keynote, is thick or thin application. What's the difference gap? And we're gonna go into what that means. It's a presentation at Scholarship Summit organized by Liberty Career Academy. Really grateful to Pastor Benga and the team for the amazing work that they are doing. I'm also privileged to know some of the inner workings, and I know it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. It's a labor of love. So thank you so much to you and your team. Really appreciate the opportunity that you're giving people across the world to take on this. The objective of this presentation today, and hopefully at the end of even the Q&A, is to one, shift your mindset about funding opportunities for graduate studies. And I'm only saying graduate studies, it also speaks to research funding and things like that, but we just want to carve it around graduate studies. There need to be a change of mindset. We need to stay, it's not just about applying for funding. There are ideologies and perspective that sponsors that. Secondly, to explore what makes an application thick. And by thick, I'm basically just playing on words. What makes an application successful? What makes the other not to? The last one is then to share practical insight on how to access these opportunities with a focus on growth and societal contribution rather than personal wealth. And I think that Pastor Gwen kind of talked about, like you need to start asking yourself, what impact do you want to make? Because ultimately, impact is really critical. Give you a little bit about my journey so that you understand why, hopefully why you have to listen to me, but most importantly, the kind of you'll be able to understand where I am coming from. My journey, just to give you a nugget here. I studied my undergrad at the University of Jos back in the day. Of course, I graduated from there, and I was able to. So I have my own Nigerian experience. I even did my master's at University of Ilorin again back in the day. Graduated, and then I moved to Canada for my graduate studies. So I was an international graduate student, and I had to go through walk the talk of applying for funding. Of course, right from Nigeria, conferences, funding applications, different things like that. And when you move to a different country as an international student, it's a whole different level of experience. So I've gone through all of that. But also, I didn't finish from there. Now, I'm also a faculty, so I'm going to be sharing on my experience, my perspective I formed by this journey, this trajectory. Now I'm a faculty, and I offer different perspective on funding and opportunities. I also vet applications. I have my PhD student, master student, uh, postdoc student. I have researchers that are coming from different parts of the world to work with me. So my offering and my perspectives are multi-layered. And when I also say that I'm a faculty, I'm also not your regular faculty. My own faculty ship, if there is any word like that, is wrapped around entrepreneurship, and I've been able to be at some certain level where I have to some degree a panoramic view and an in-depth understanding of how some of these things work. And then finally, I'm also a grant maker. And that's really important because a lot of the time when you're applying for funding, whether as a faculty or as a grad student, in our context today, it's grad student or wanting to go to grad school, you may not necessarily understand the rule and the ideas around grant making. The idea of grant making is the people that gives funding. So through my foundation, through our foundation, MSc Foundation, we also give we award financial grants to non-profit and individuals to drive social impact, which means that I'm giving you perspective from a grant maker perspective, and from a grant maker point of view of what makes a thick application. You can see those levels. Okay, so let's dive into it. The key takeaways that I'm hoping you get out of this is one, commitment and intentionality. Uh, by saying take action. Action is required. Be committed, be intentional, be resilient in the face of challenges. I remember when I was in Brazil, the second testimonial that we all listened to. When I was in Brazil some couple of years ago, we grabbed tea and we had lunch together, and he was telling me, how he had to go through all the things he went through, and now he secured his funding in Brazil. Now he finished in Brazil. Now he's doing a postdoc. So you have to be committed and be intentional. The second thing is to redefine what failure is, and we're going to come to that. A lot of the time in our society, we don't think about failure from a strength-based approach. We don't think about failure from a broad-based thinking. We think it's a setback, but we need to understand that we need to redefine it. Because for some people, it will not be the first time. Some people will apply for it once and that's it, they get it. Some people, they will not. But the persistency and redefining failure would help us understand that there is an opportunity for growth. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is understanding funding opportunities. First is we need to move from, it's about changing mindset. And you see me, I'm flying through this because I want to be within the time cap for this so that we can have time for other things. We need to change our mindset from begging to growth mindset. What I find a lot of the time when I go through applications, particularly from the global south, is that a lot of the things that folks write in their application, in their letter, SOP and all of that, it's about begging. Oh, I'm from a poor family. I'm from this. I'm the only one that gives that is the breadwinner. I'm this, I'm that. No, you need to move from begging mindset to growth mindset. You need to focus beyond the personal to the professional. Which takes me to the second thing. It's about growth and societal contribution. If I give you this funding, how is this funding going to benefit your community? How is this going to benefit your society? So it's moving away from this begging mindset to the growth and societal contribution. The third thing is that we all need to understand that the piece around scholarship and funding, it's a global phenomenon. It's not a Nigerian thing. It's not an African thing. In fact, there are many people in the global north, and when we say global north, we're referring to the so-called in developed countries. Many of them cannot go to school. They will tell you they can't do graduate program if they are not fully funded. In fact, it is in some universities rather, it is defined in the rule of engagement. You want to get a grad student, you need to have funding for them. So hopefully that helps us understand this is not like, oh, it's just for us. And it's not just only for graduate program that you apply for funding for. You apply for funding, there's fellowship, internship, conferences, residencies. I'm running a residency. I run my residency every year, and this year I'm running it in the university called Royal Road University. And part of what we put in the application is, if you need bursary, we're not guaranteeing anything because we need funding to give you the bursary. But if you need bursary, just put it there, you need it. So it's a global phenomenon. And a lot of the time, because we don't know or understand that this is a global phenomenon, we always think that, oh, it's just an African thing. Change of mindset. Okay. The second thing then now, which is the second part of my presentation, is what makes an application thick. We're going to go through 6 things quickly. The first one is about the rigorous evidence and rationale. And I'm sorry, I would have put this in order, but just get it. what we mean by that is that when I see an application, I'm always thinking you want to go and you're writing an essay, SOP, and all of that. What's the rigor of the evidence? What's the rationale? You have to have a strong rationale, whether it's driven by data, whether you document the impact. You have to have clear rationale, well researched. Well, some people might say, your research question, your methodology, your all of those things, depending on the language that each application needs. As you may know, and I think in the next session we'll be talking about different kinds of funding opportunities. You have those that are funded by the government, you have those that are funded by the university, you have those that are funded by the school and different things like, or even by the professor, by the lab and things like that. But the first thing is rigorous evidence and rationale. The second thing is comprehensive planning and visibility. It has to be clear your objectives. It has to be clear, like a detailed project plan, and you have to also think about risk management and sustainability plan. Now, I do recognize that for those that are going for masters, all of these may not necessarily be asked of you, but certainly if you're doing PhD, these are things they're going to be asking of you. What project do you have in mind you want to do? Now, that doesn't mean that's the project you will do eventually. The reason why we ask you to write a proposal, or we ask you to be clear with the objectives, we ask you to think about your risk. What are the risks in doing this research? We have to think about the sustainability plan and all of that. Is that we want to be sure that this person, if we give you the resources, can you even do it? One of my contact, one of my friend, is doing his masters in the University in the University of Mississippi in the U.S. and fully funded. Lot of like these things we have to go through everything, and I have many examples how being comprehensive, when somebody is reviewing your application, they can see that it shows who you are, it shows that you are thorough, you are detailed and things like that. The third one is detailed financials and budget. This may not apply to many of you for undergrad, but for those who are faculties or even postdoc and all of that, this is critically important. Now, I would say though, even if it doesn't apply to you, you need to have that understanding right from now. Always research your budget. I do this to a lot of my folks, folks in my center. When they are going for a conference, the first thing I ask them is, what's your budget? And they're like, oh yeah, I didn't think about it. I'm going to go back to work on it. You need to think about the budget. Who wants to be the house that will not take cost of what it will cost, before starting to build the house, right? It's important to understand it's a well-researched budget. Okay, I'm going to do this research. How much is it going to cost me? I'm flying and all of that. That helps you to plan. Like I said, this may not be necessarily relevant for some of you that are going for graduate program at this point, but budget anyways is important for whatever you want to do. So put that into perspective. The last three things, which are super important, is applicant's credibility. When we're looking at your CV, there's a reason why we ask you to put your CV together. There is a reason why we ask you to write your SOP. There is a reason why we want to know your trajectory. It's that your reviewer want to know, what has this applicant done that that can give us confidence that they can do what is ahead, that they can do what they claim they want to do. Okay, so when we talk about bios, we talk about CVs and all of that, there is a reason why we do that. It's because we want to understand the applicant's credibility, the applicant's trajectory. Because if you've never done anything, I'm not going to commit 500,000 to your hand to say, "Ah, yeah, go do it." No, I have to see that granting also works it's progressive. You start from $100 or 100 naira or 100 sepers or pesos. Then from there to go to 500. Then somebody will have confidence in you to give you 1,000, and then from there it start growing. Always think of your credibility, whether it's whether it's a paper you publish, whether it's the conferences you went to, whether it's the workshop that you went to, whether it's whether it's the volunteering that you did. All of those things speaks to your credibility. Number three, and then the last thing that speaks to your credibility there is your letter of recommendation, and we're going to talk to that because a lot of people, letter of recommendation is so critical, but because we don't understand what it does and what it means and how it impacts our work, we at the end of the day don't even pay much attention to it. The fifth thing is alignment and adherence. And I will always say this, when you see any funding application, the first thing you should do is to read about it. Is it a strategic fit for you? Does it work for you? Does it work for you? Is it in alignment with you, with what you want to do? Because I hate it for you to spend a lot of your time on funding application and you realize that it doesn't fit. Strategic fit, adherence to guidelines, eligibility, check all of those things. That's what alignment and adherence is all about. The last thing on that is the sixth point is clear and engaging presentation. I always say a bad science, you can go with a bad science. And by bad science, I mean if your idea is not so strong, is need refining and all of that. If you have good information, you have good way of presenting your work, good English, persuasive storytelling, all of those things, it can still pass. Please, on take a note of the language I'm using here. It can still pass. I didn't say it will pass. It can. But if you have good science and poor presentation, it will not pass. Because the person that is reading your work, all of those things, they have to understand what you're saying. So clear and engaging presentation, plain English, persuasive storytelling. If you need to add a visual appeal to it, add it to it. Again, depending on the context of the application that you are working on. So what are the practical tips now? Right, I'm coming to the end of this presentation. There are resources and samples out there. However, there are some key aspects to strategize around. One of them is what is called statement of purpose. And I imagine some of you on this call, you've heard that before. There are a lot of examples out there. When you take these 6 points that I've mentioned to you, as you think about your statement of purpose, think about how does each of these fit into your statement of purpose. What's your credibility? What have you done? What is in alignment with what you've done and the school or the program you are applying to? It's the same thing for your cold emails. I receive numerous cold emails, and to be honest with you, 80% of them, I'm not going to have anything to do with them. Why? Because they just asked ChatGPT to write something for me, and ChatGPT wrote it, and they just slam it on that email. There is no alignment. There is no credibility. Nothing. When you pick credibility, when you pick these 6 points that I've highlighted for you today, you can put that under each of this category: statement of purpose, cold emails, letters of recommendation. Even when it comes to interview with professor, like I did say, if needed, there are some programs that are not needed. There are some applications, funding opportunities that are not needed. That are not needed. Interviews are not needed. Okay, great. So those are 4 things. We're gonna speak to all of this, hopefully. And I'm hoping that Pastor Ganga will know this, that hopefully at some point you would ask me a question around letter of recommendation, because I'd love to speak to that in our fire chat session. Now, there are a lot of information out there. So here is how you can curate your own information for yourself. One of the things I've realized in my engagement, in over close to 40 countries across 6 continents in the world, and anywhere I go to, I try as much as possible to get across to grad students or emerging artists or emerging scholars and all of that, in addition to high level things that I'm doing and all that. I realized that people are confused. It's about where will I start? Because there's so much information out there. And I always say, you have to curate your experience for yourself ultimately. What are practical ways? Subscribe to newsletters. Monitor new boards. There are a lot of news boards around, whether it's on LinkedIn and all of that. Some of you saw these online and you applied and you came here today. Join groups that can help you. Now, I'm also aware that many groups that these days they want to fraud you. Be careful. If somebody is asking you to bring money, ask them what value are they giving you before you give any money. But you need to curate your experience by yourself. When I was starting back in the day, and I'm still starting, okay, no matter where we're at, for me, I believe I'm still starting. I don't joke with newsletters, especially newsletters that I know that they are I read about them, and I see the information that they send out. 2, I don't joke about news boards. Like back in the day at University of Jos,
Each time I'm going and I see a notice board, I will always go to the notice board and read what is there. In fact, my first international conference that I went for in Nigeria, I actually saw the information in the notice board. So while other people are passing through notice board, I always, even to today, is a practice that I do. Notice boards, like we call it, or news boards, e-letters, and things like that. So curate your experience for yourself. The last piece of advice or practical tips as I bring to a close is be open to different opportunities and possibilities. Have faith and hard work. Be persistent. But most importantly, please take action. Take action. And always ask yourself, it's about value proposition. What am I bringing to the table? If I'm applying for this funding, why am I the one that will give this funding? Knowing fully well the value these funders are looking for. And then, of course, myself too. With that, I'll bring this to a close. I will bring this to a close, and then I will say that the idea at the end of the day is to empower growth. The idea at the end of the day is that these opportunities to help us to grow into who we're meant to grow into, who we're meant to grow into. So growth. If there's a word that I wanted to go back with today, is growth. That these applications and all of these things, what makes I want to see that grow. That's what makes I want to see how far you've grown and the potentials of the growth. That's what make the thicker application from a thin application. And all of that will reflect in how you present it in all those six things that I've raised. I'll leave it at that.
I'm going to be joining, getting into a question and answer session right now. But just before I get into that Q&A session with Professor Taiwo Afolabi, and this is where we are going to really talk. It's more like a fireside coffee chat to talk largely about what are those factors that get people scholarship. He has been an evaluator, and what we'll be able to get is ideas on what he looks for when you make your funding pitch. Either it's for scholarship or it's for graduate assistantship or research opportunities. And so those are some of the things that we'll be tackling right there. Professor Taiwo, once you're online, please let me know. But in the meantime, just to provide you also some information that I've been seeing some of the comments online requesting for where's the information, where's the scholarship opportunities. At the end of this session, we're going to show you how to access. We have curated a database of over 400 different scholarship opportunities in the globe. Undergraduate, graduate, some of those which Anu talked about, charity-based, university-based, organizational-based, and the regions, and more details. So stick around, don't go. All right, I have Professor Taiwo Afolabi here, and we're just going to be doing some Q&As. It's going to be fun. Some of the things you talked about, and I couldn't help but notice, you talked about when you started from the University of Jos in northern Nigeria, right? Was it at that point you began to pursue scholarship opportunities as an undergraduate, or it was after you graduated? When did the idea of study abroad funding come to you?
But thanks for the question. So I started right during my undergrad, not
Undergrad.
after I finished. Yeah, and it's
Okay.
always a question around. I think Anu said that earlier on. What exactly do you want? Where do you see yourself? Where what was at the time, I realized that I needed more. I needed access to information. I needed access to so many things. So you would see me. I remember my first international conference was University of Port Harcourt, and I applied for to go to the conference, and I got to that conference because they were calling me prof. They were speaking to my future. And then the person that came to come and pick me, the organizer of the conference, a prof at the University of Port Harcourt, when they because entrance of Nigerian structure, entrance of the school to the inside of the school, it's very fast. So anyway, and she said, where's the prof you went to come and pick? And they're like, this is the guy. And they were like, no, are you a prof? I'm like, no, I'm a student. They were like, no, it's not possible. Because my paper and all of that, they even requested for my university ID, student ID, to be sure that I was the one that I claim I was.
The point
So you're
is,
never too young to
no,
start.
no. Start wherever you are. Start right now. Look, take baby steps. The lot of the time, I feel like we want to run 100 miles when we've not even run 1 mile.
Mm,
So the whole idea of, being resilient and all of those things. I started apply for funding for conferences. I applied for even essays. There are some essay competitions that were open, and if you get like the number 1 to 3 prize, they will fly you abroad to go and present it. I was applying for so many things like that. I was building my muscle because I knew that at
right.
some point I'm gonna be applying for funding in millions, which I am today.
Yes.
And you can't jump to that point. So I started at that point, from fellowships to internship to volunteer. In fact, I remember I applied to for internship in one of United Nations outlet in Cambodia. Like, I
Wow.
was literally, yeah, doing all of those things
Wow.
because again I need to build muscle for these things. And
Mm,
then, so it wasn't until I finished. When, when somebody told me it's not possible, it's an invitation for me to prove you wrong that it's possible. So I was literally I
mm.
started very early, and we thank God where we are today.
That is fantastic. Now, you talked about different things just in passing. I don't know if anybody caught it. You talked about fellowships, you talked about scholarships, you talked about, I think, about three or
Internship,
four things, and internship.
internship, volunteering,
Could you shed a bit more light on that?
conferences,
Yeah.
residencies. Yeah, you see, lot of the time we just focus on scholarship. What scholarship? A lot of the time, especially when somebody is coming from an environment where you've not necessarily had a record of receiving scholarship. If you've gone for conferences, you've gone for internship, you all of that still builds to your credibility.
Mm,
So it's not just scholarship alone. You can even get scholarship to go for those things anyways. But you can start building your trajectory, because again, when you get there, like Anu was saying, it's not just about getting the funding. When you get there, you still need all of these things, and really it's the
yes.
same skill sets that you need.
That's great. Now, one of the things I've often heard from people is dealing with rejection. I tried the first time, it didn't work. And if you one of the videos you played of Abolaji, whom you met in Brazil, he was talking about trying and tell me, how did you handle rejection when you get what we call love letters?
Yeah.
Thank you for your
Yeah,
time. We're sorry, that
yeah.
kind of letter.
I just got one yesterday. Um,
No kidding, even at your level.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're doing a partnership with a country in Latin America, and the Canadian government wanted us to, go
Yeah.
there and do stuff. And I got a letter yesterday saying, sorry, we got a lot of applications. You didn't get it. I'm not gonna keep myself on that. I always say something, and again, this is my own point of position on this. We have to be humble enough to understand that a no, after a redefine what a no means, but also understand that, why do you think that you'll be the one that they will give? That's a high level of
Mm,
arrogance. You have to come to that point to say, I've put in my best foot, and I did. I will. At any point in time, if I'm doing something and I don't put my first foot forward, I know. But I'll try. It's not all the time that I do it, that you will put your best foot forward. It happens with all human beings. But also know that whoever gets it actually, they wish them well.
mm,
So I think first thing that how I handle that, or how I built my muscle. You have to build your muscle together. You need to build your capacity on how to handle rejections. Uh, it's first by changing that mindset. I applied for it. Hopefully I get it. If I get it, glory to God. If I don't get it, glory to God. That's one. Number two is also to understand, if they didn't give it to me, is there something that I'm doing wrong that I need to do, that I need to take a
right.
step back to evaluate? All right. I'll give you an example. When I was doing my PhD, there was a funding opportunity in Canada. They've stopped it now. And I took that funding opportunity. I was an international student. You know, the hustling culture. I mean, I also am a Niger guy. You're hustling, looking for opportunities. Um, because this, studying abroad is pricey. And at times you
Yep.
don't get fully funded, and different things like that. And I took this opportunity to my department, and then they literally come in and say, "Well, thanks for the opportunity." And my supervisor literally told me that, "Well, we're giving this guy, we're not giving you. Next year, we'll give it to you." And they've never, I'm not sure in the history of my department, they've given it to my department before. So I knew that whoever that was applying, as long as the application is strong, there's a tendency that we're going to give that person. So, but they made the decision without me. So they gave the
Mm,
person. And I was devastated. And I went back to the place of prayer. So my faith is a critical piece on how
Yes,
I
it's a
handle
critical
these
piece.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But those things are personal. And I went there, and later on, I had prayers and things like that. And I remember when I was just meditating, I realized I just heard it's like the person that got it, he needs it. Later on, I realized that person that year he lost his mother,
Wow.
did so many
Wow.
things happen to them. And I realized I said, oh, God, I'm so sorry that I felt like I'm so entitled that I should have
Entitled.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a balance clearly, but it's really
Right.
also understanding that what do you learn from it? Also, I don't put all my eggs in one basket. So it's like, what
Right.
are the multiple other things you need to do? And
Yeah.
then you get it, you don't get it, you
Yes.
move on. I don't
Yeah.
pitch my tent in yesterday's glory or yesterday's failure.
Yes.
I don't care. I move on. So we have to learn to build that, and that's why I always say, start small, start
Start
now.
small. Start small, start now. Right.
Yes,
Somebody
it
write
builds.
that down. Start
Yeah,
small, start now.
start now. Yeah.
Good. So good. That's a fantastic question. Now, you've been on this journey for quite a lot now. From those humble beginnings at the University of Jos, you've literally been around the world receiving awards and scholarships. What do you know now that you wish you knew when you were starting out?
Yeah, so I would say the first thing, lot of it, I would say the first thing first is define your why.
Your why.
Define
I hear that
your
quite
why.
often.
And I would say I'm sort of an outlier, and you know this, Pastor Benga,
Yeah.
I'm a sort of an outlier that a lot of the things that that because I read a lot, so we may not necessarily have physical mentors like
Yeah.
I'm a mentor to many people today. I didn't really have people like that, but I read a lot. Like I read voraciously. Like that's how we're able to make up for those things.
Yeah.
Define your why. Number two is have the right people in your corner. Somebody that you can call and say, hey, take a read this thing for me. And then the person can read it or give you honest feedback,
Feedback. Yeah.
because you need that feedback. I'm not in the circle of people that you give them feedback and they start becoming, overly sensitive, sensational.
Moody.
I don't care. I leave you,
This.
honestly. I don't have
Yeah.
time for that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have people that can give you honest feedback. And when we say honest feedback, it's not a caustic, saying it in a negative way and derogatory. No,
Way.
but I can give you feedback and say, bro, you need to change this thing. It's not going to work. And if you're arguing with me,
Yes.
I will say, let you go. We have the result, and the result
Yes.
was not just pasted to us. We worked for it. So if somebody
Yeah.
is coming to say, listen, look at this and all that, so have somebody in your corner, people in your corner that can give you feedback. Number three
Good.
is always think about what can you contribute to your society. Honestly, I learned that very early. My father would always say, life is about value proposition.
Right.
He will always say, when you go to a place, ask yourself, look around, what is needed right now? What is
Right.
the gap? And how can I contribute to filling the gap? You may not have all the
Absolutely.
capacity to fill all the gap, but
Yes.
maybe out of 10, you have the capacity to fill one. Fill it. Don't wait for anyone. And honestly, all of
Right.
the things that I've done, it's been like that since I started the chemistry
Giving
group,
back.
started, all of those things. It's about how do I give back, what's the need, the national program that I run, the international programs I run. It's
Yes.
like, I see the need, they call it, do your evaluation, market assessment, all of
Exactly.
those things. It's really
Yes.
understanding what the gap is. Full stop.
That's it. Pretty much.
And then how do you feel it? And
How do
when
you
we
feel about that?
think that way towards the other, it will
Other.
come
Right.
back to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And totally for those who are watching live on YouTube or here in the Zoom room, Professor Taiwo Afolabi is one of our esteemed mentors in our mentorship program. And the feedback from some of his mentees have just been phenomenal, from bagging scholarships. And anyway, it's just amazing. Now, I have a question. You sat on multiple scholarship and funding requests panel. I wanted to ask you, and I'm asking this question because LCA, we run a scholarship program. And last cohort, we had over 6,000 applications, 6,000 for just a slot of just about 10 people. You can imagine 6,000 now. You've seen a ton of those. What are those things that you look for when you receive, maybe it's for a research assistantship or a scholarship or you're reviewing work? What are those key things you look for in a candidate that says, hey, I want to know more about this person?
I think the first thing first is I'm always saying value proposition. What do you bring to the table? I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to give my funding to somebody that I know that they've not really done anything in their life, full stop. And sorry, I'm going to be very blunt.
Take that again. They've not.
Sorry, I'm being blunt. I'm not being Canadian.
Go for it. Yeah.
We always talk about get funding, get funding. There is no organization in their right senses with the right strategic direction that will give funding to someone that signals that they've not done anything in their life and they are not planning to do anything in their life or with their life. Full stop.
They've not volunteered anywhere. They've not started anything. They've not built anything with somebody. They've not worked on any projects. They're just consumers.
No. So I am looking for someone, again, whether I'm reviewing an application on a panel or as a grant maker, I'm looking for organization. How innovative are they? What have they built? And when I say build, I'm not saying go start Google. No, I'm saying, did you volunteer somebody, in your neighborhood? Did you see a problem? Did you fix it? Did you see, like, all of those things built? I can then see. So even if you have taught class and I see you have so much, you've invested so much, not just only in yourself but in others. I know that maybe the time you were in university and that it was just a matter of time for the first class and that you got a third class. I have an example right now. I have somebody studying in the US. They finished with a third class, but they were just, at the time when they were in the university, they were just, youthful, exuberant and all of that. But when they finished, boy, oh boy, they buckled up. The kind of remarkable things they've done. There is no, even the professor that is reviewing it to be like, how did you do this? So I'm looking for somebody that they've built something or they are supporting what is working. So I love the, invitation for people to volunteer and things like that. And not just to slap it on their name, on their this thing. So that's one. The second thing, I'm looking for the skill set that you bring. The reason why we tell people to do if somebody, for those people that work in my own lab right now in my center and that work in my mobile research lab and all of that, all of them beyond the academy, they have certain skill set, whether it's videography, whether it's content creation, whether it's and all of that, and they've built that over the years.
Right?
Because it is those things that will set you apart. It is those things that will set your research apart. It's those things, that kind of new thinking and things like that. The third thing is I'm looking for somebody that take initiative. You see, all of these things that I've put down, if you have those things, I've not even talked about grades now. For me, grade is like 5, 6, 7.
Wow.
These things, and you will see that in people's CV, you see that in people's essay, you will see that at the point of interview, you will see all of that. For me, those are things that, and then of course the alignment to the funding and different things like that. I also see that there's some funding that they have some term of reference that it has to be geographically disbursed. So, which means that if there are 10 slots, just like Nigeria, there are 10 slots, at least we need a representation from all the 6 geopolitical zones.
Right, it's zoned.
So all of those strategic alignments are really, and you won't know it as a person that is applying. Most of the time, you won't know it. There's some funding, especially in the art, that will tell you these areas, we are looking for applicants from these areas. But a lot of the time, you won't really know it. So, but for me personally, these are the things that I'm looking for. I'm looking for innovation. I'm looking for the opportunities that you've built or you supported, impact that you've made. So impact, innovation, impact, and being able to take, the value proposition that you bring to the table. Because if you're able to hit all of these 3 things, I can see that this person is just a matter of time. I always look out for humble beginnings. That's why I say start now, start right now. Don't take, and then we can say, oh, this person has the potential to grow. Because we're not giving you that funding because you've arrived. We're giving you that funding because we can see the potential. A lot of the funding are potential.
Forward-looking.
It's forward-looking. So I need to see all of that.
Right, fantastic. I have this set of questions here, and please feel free to pop in your question. Our admin team will route it across to me for me to pass it across to Professor Afolabi. Prof, somebody's asking here is, what should one watch out for the most in the choice of a country to study? I'm guessing this person is talking abroad. In the light of different geopolitical shifts, language, and all those hurdles. What should somebody look out for the most in the choice of country to study?
I would say first look out for prospect. So again, when you're choosing a country, don't just choose it from the research. Who are those that have studied in that country that was sort of in your position maybe 10,
Mm.
20 years ago, or even 5 years ago.
Yep.
That's the first. What's their prospect? In fact, you can go as far as reaching out to them. I find people reaching. I have a policy. People reach out to me. At least I'll give you 30 minutes. I don't have more than that because I have many things I'm doing. But I want to ask. You want to ask me questions? I'm all yours. 30 minutes, or
Mm.
15 minutes. Like, reach out to them, and some will say yes, some will say no, right? So look out for the prospect. Secondly, look at also for the support systems that are there. There are some countries that as an international student you cannot work, you can't
Yes.
do anything. If you are not fully funded and you cannot work, then what is the what then you
What's the
can't do
point?
anything. What's the point?
Yep.
So that's number two. You're looking for prospect, but that prospect means that those that have graduated before, where are they? Are there opportunities for them there and things like that? Where are they in their career? Number two, what's the practical things, like, you have opportunity to work? What's the paper again? Some people, you want to go back to your country, going back to why again. If you want to stay there, then you're asking yourself, can I stay here, and things like that. Number three, the other things to start looking out for. I mean, racism is everywhere, anyways, but there are some places that are way more than other places. In fact, I was in a particular country whose name I will not mention. That I actually met a Ghanaian that, I was doing something there, and then they told me the level of racism that they experienced, that they wish they had not come.
Wow.
They wish they
Must
had
have been
not come.
so bad.
Yes, of course, I encourage them, because at times too, it's a lot of encouragement. When people just need to be encouraged, and this happened to many people that I know. You just get encouraged and you move on. And encourage them. I think they finished, and I don't know where they are again today. So
Yeah.
look out for those practical things. The last thing I would say is that, um, look out for, the the how quick is it to transition. So a lot of the reason why many people are leaving the UK right now is because UK's immigration policy is wacky. Like, you can't there are opportunities
Very,
there, but the
very
opportunities
volatile.
it's very volatile. So you want to then check out, how can I transition from being an international student or being a student to being this and all of that, because you don't want to live your life in hanky panky. You don't
Right.
want to live your life that at the end of the day you run on paper and you can't come back. All of those things are not needed. Your life is too
Mhm.
precious to
To do
waste it.
that. Yeah, to waste that. Yeah.
Those are the things I will look out for. And information is all over the place now. Back in the day, things are in the hiding, right? Now everything is on, like, go to
It's
Google.
on
But people will tell you there is Naira land, there are different platforms. People will tell you their experience.
the
I don't take all the
experiences.
experience all 100% hook, line, and sinker, but there are some of them that can tell, now that I know this, even if that's the place I still need to go, what then can I
I'm
do to
armed with the
mitigate
right
that?
information.
Yes, and
Right.
the last thing I would say is that some places are good for certain courses. Again, you want to do aeronautical engineering and all of
Yeah.
that. You can't go to Romania for aeronautical engineering. It doesn't work there. Or, you have to look
Mm.
at, those are the things to also look out for. There's some things in Australia that they do well. There's some things in South America, in America, they do well. There's some things in Latin or South America. So you have to look at the specific needs of what you want to do and things like that. So I'll leave it at
Oh,
that.
fantastic. Good. So now let's go into what people do. Not almighty, the mighty SOP, your statement of purpose. I
Yes.
do not think there's any way you're going to get a funding or even graduate opportunities without an SOP, which is your statement of purpose. What are those key components in terms of the structure of the statement of purpose? You've read a ton, you've written a ton. What are those key elements that your statement of purpose should include?
Yeah. So I'll break it down to you in a very simple language. And I know there are a lot of information out there, that are trying to overcomplicate it. Statement of purpose basically asks you the question, what it is you're trying to do or you want to do. Why do you want to do it?
Yeah.
How do you want to do it? Why do you think you're the right fit to do it? When do you want to do it? With whom? I'll repeat it again.
Yeah.
Because there's so much noise about SOP. SOP is the simplest thing to write in the world, in my opinion. Because again, please know
Yeah.
I've written tons, and I've
Tons.
read tons, and I've received a lot of rejection on it. I've received a lot of feedback on it. Clarity of what it is do you want to do? Why do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Why do you think you are the one that is fit to do it? So that who wants to do it? That's the question of who. Who wants to do it? How do you want to do it? Methodology. With whom do you want to do it? So give an instance. Why do I want to come and study with you, Professor Gbenga Rufai? Because I can see that you have expansive experience in emotional intelligence, in human resources, in strategic organization. And based on where I am coming from as an artist who has done work here and there, I need to learn that. For example, I read an article of yours or a book of yours, or I listened to one of your speeches where you were literally talking about the creative industry and the need for us to really think about leadership and how that can help us to move the sector forward. In fact, to be more specific, there is a project that you are doing that aligns with that.
Right.
Now, the reason why I want to do that with you is that so that I can come back to my organization and scale it up so that it can make more impact and help other artists to be able to work and build their organization so that they don't have to go through the journeys that I went through. I want to do it in your university because you've built a center, or you've built a center or a Liberty Career Academy that has been able to work with X number of students or artists over the years, and they've brought in, they've created organization of this magnitude. That's SOP.
Right.
I just wrote SOP for you.
Yeah, right.
I've answered the question who, because I told you I'm an artist. I've done this over this, and I still see the gap. Why do I want to do it with you? I told you, because I've seen your work and the impact you've made, and I believe that I can learn from you. What do I want to do? I want to come and study with you on art management and leadership in the creative sector, because that's what you do. What's the last question? Why do I want to do it? Because I don't want other artists that are coming behind me to go through the same problem that I went through. I want to scale my organization to make more impact, but also I want those that are coming behind me not to make the same mistake that I made. I just wrote SOP. That's it.
Fantastic.
Every other thing is noise. That's what SOP is all about.
It's all about establishing that clear linkage between what they are doing, what you want to do, and the value at the end of the day. And the value at the end of the day. Fantastic. Good. We're just going to do a couple of more rapid fire questions. And if you have any question, please feel free to pop it in. I have just about 5 minutes there about to wrap this Q&A session up. Somebody's talking about, or is asking, is it a must that I publish articles before getting a postgraduate scholarship?
No, it's not. It's not. Although it increases your chance, but at the level of master, let's clarify. At the level of masters, it is not. But if you're doing a PhD, honestly, it will be a very hard one to sell if you don't have a publication. Now, let's clarify what publication is. When we say publication, we're not just talking about there's what we call the traditional academic publisher and the non-traditional. So, for example, you have, you publish in your regular journal, that's academic, a book chapter and all of that. But these days also, we also need to kind of understand that the world is going beyond just the regular journal articles. You were invited to come and give a speech, and that talk was well researched. It's not just doing an introduction. Please, I'm clarifying what I'm saying here. I'm talking about real presentation. Even though it's not published in a journal, the moment people came to come and listen to you, you were invited to a conference or you went to those count as impact, those count as output. You can put that in, those count as it. Okay, so when we say publication, understand what it means, and it's not just academic publication and things like that. So for master's program though, most of the programs in masters, you don't really need it, to be honest, because I think we don't want to ask of you too much to say you have to publish and things like that. Now, again, please, I'm putting the caveat, look at the funding you're applying for. If they clearly write it there that you need publication, then that means you need it. But most of the time, not really. But for the PhD, it's on a higher level. Okay. Yeah. So which means that they expect you that you've been able to garner some level of research expertise, and you've shown that through publication. Now, that publication doesn't mean that it has to be only you. It can be co-authored. It can be you are a research assistant in a project and different things like that. You've shown those things that you are capable of doing a PhD. Because as you would see, a PhD is a serious engagement, is a serious investment, and it will require you to do work all by yourself. So that's how. So hopefully, I hopefully,
Yes.
whoever asked that
Oh,
question, feel like it's been answered.
no, well answered. Somebody is also saying, I'm a female student athlete from the University of Lagos. For me, getting sports scholarship has been a bit challenging. I want to please, could you please shed some light about sports scholarship? I don't know if that's within your sphere.
So a little bit that I know about sports scholarship is that most of them are connected to the university. So whichever school you want to apply to, which for you, whoever that person is, they check the kind of sport that you are playing. Is that the same sport that they are playing in that school?
In that school.
Because if it's not the same kind of sport, they will not fund you.
Right.
If it's rugby, for example, so in Canada, we know that rugby is a big, rugby is a,
Yeah.
it's a big one. Many universities have rugby team, and for you to be on that rugby team, once you're in, there's a certain scholarship they give to you and things like that. So my recommendation is that depending on the sport that you are playing, take a look at the university, and then you will clearly see their, the criteria for you to be part to get that scholarship. Also, make inquiry if they have that sport, and if that sport is built in. Again, let me clarify also, the fact that your university has played that sport doesn't mean they have a sustainable system of scholarship to keep that sport going. A lot of the
Right.
time you will realize that if any university has funding for sport and all that, they are part of a particular league. Because remember, it's value proposition. The reason why they're asking you to come and play sport and study and will pay you is because they want to go up in the ranking in their league. They are not giving you money for free. So you have to look at the league that they are in, the category, where they're at, the honors and things like that. So I think for somebody like that is very specific, you need more research to do, because
Right.
yours is not necessarily like the mainstream. It's very
Yeah.
specific,
It's very
but it's
specific.
possible. Yeah, it's possible.
All right, fantastic question. This person is asking, we've already answered this question. Should I wait? No, you don't need to wait till you graduate. Start now. We
No,
talked about
start now.
internship, we talked about fellowship, we talked about conferences. What it does is that it builds your portfolio. I think before we get into announcements and providing evaluations and access to the database that we talked about, I'm just going to give Prof a couple of minutes, parting words. A ton of people are going to be watching this live or recorded, and they would like to hear what you have to say to them.
Well, thank you so much. I would say, wherever you are, an opportunity awaits you. Start now. Start here and now. Don't wait. I'm a strong believer in that. I'm not in competition with nobody else except myself. So my goal is to get better every day, every day. The more you do those things together, the more you become. The better rather you get better at it.
To continue.
As you continue to go on. The last thing I would say is it's good to build good coalition. Have good people in your corner, please. You also be
Other
good people
people
in other
corner,
people's
right?
corner.
Don't be a
Yes.
leech.
And don't know. And that would be if I've seen people where they collect and collect and collect and collect and collect, and they don't give back. No, read somebody else's work. Don't go and copy and paste it, please. Read somebody else's work. Do all of these things, and then the others can do that for you too. But most importantly, take action. The future is bright. And ultimately, all these resources are out there. And then I wish you all the best.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, please, Professor Taiwo Afolabi, please put your hands together for him. Thank you so much, Prof. This has been extremely insightful. And I'm going to say this, once the recording is up, is on YouTube, go back and listen again. Check all our resources, the pages, follow us on social media. These are things that, in fact, there are recordings that people listen over and over and over again and begin to ask step by step, what do I need to do? This is what I've done. And to be honest, for us at LC, we really are looking forward to your success story. We've had people from this. Yeah, Prof, go ahead. You wanted to say something?
Yes, just interesting. I remember talking about letter of recommendation.
Yeah.
Your letter of recommendation is very important.
Good.
The letter that I see coming out of many countries, particularly in the global south, is to whom it may concern. I know this person, therefore, please, no, no, no. I've seen applications that I'm literally crying because this person is so good, it was great, but the letter of recommend, the person that wrote it did not write anything. So here's my recommendation for you. Don't tell them that I told you. When you're asking somebody in your university, particularly when you're coming from a system where it's not necessarily inclined to the global north system of application and the recommendation, write the letter for them. Give them a draft. I didn't tell you. Give them a draft because they don't know the things that you know. To whom it may concern, I know them, therefore this person is great. No, it doesn't cut it. I'm sorry. Pastor knows this. It doesn't cut it. Who writes the letter for you is as important as the content of the letter.
Right.
So don't go and just say because you know that lecturer and then they will write it for you. No. Look at the person that can write for you. Also ask them, please, sir, I'm happy to write a draft for you. I did that when I was in my undergrad. I'll say, because I know they're also busy, I'll write them a draft. Oga, please help me take a look. I've written it for you. You make it, you can put their name. In fact, they love that because they won't waste their time. Because it's a lot of work to write letter. So please take letter of recommendation very seriously. I know that we're out of time. I'll leave it at that. I didn't want to.
Yeah, that's so important. In the line of my work too, I've seen people lose opportunities just because of the recommendation or references. I've seen people lose jobs because the person who referenced them just did a very shoddy job. So who references you is important, and what they write is also important. It's not a template letter. It has to be crafted to show that they really know this person and they can speak to your strength. You've seen cases where somebody just writes, well, it's okay. No. How would you rate him on a scale of 1 to 5? You put a 3, that's a fail. Yeah, 3 is average, but it's a fail because you're competing with other people. But anyway, we can go on and on this conversation. I'm just going to pass it across. Patrick, if you're on, please let me know. We're going to be taking a few announcements, providing evaluation, and then we will be wrapping this up. Patrick, is he there? There he is. All right.